expert. Who's that guy in that orange shirt? Who must be the fence expert? It's time to talk about the fences. It's time to discuss operations and expenses. It's time, it's really time to elevate small businesses. It's time for Joe to drop his knowledge. It's relentless. This rhyme of mine is getting a bit ridiculous. So here we go. We're live with Joe. Enjoy the show.
What is up, Fence fam? So good to be back with you guys live. I was going to say live and in person. We're not necessarily in person. We're virtual, as it were. But I'm so glad you guys got to join us. It has been a little while since we've had a live, so it's good to be back in the studio talking with you guys here. If you guys read the description, you know exactly who today's guest is. But first, few things. If you're listening to this on the podcast, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All the listens matter. Is that what all the downloads matter? That's what they call them on podcast land, according to Dan Wheeler. If you guys are also looking for another podcast to listen to, check out Dan Wheeler's Defense Industry Podcast. But if you're listening on podcast, thank you. You're listening to a recorded version of a live conversation that I host most every Saturday from 10 to 11-ish Central. So if you'd like to participate live, ask your questions directly, then be sure to jump in. You can find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, really anywhere that you consume video content. We're probably streaming live. Just search Joe Everest and there we'll be. If you guys are watching this live, welcome. I appreciate it. Today's live is brought to you by the one, the only Expert Professional Wood Care Products. These guys are great. We're getting ready to talk to Caleb here in just a minute, but I wanted to thank them before he came up, just because they make this live possible, and it means a lot to me. If you guys are if you install wood, if you're looking at using stain, or if you're currently using stain but you haven't used the Expert products, I say you should definitely check them out. So, without further ado, the man, the myth, the staining legend, Caleb Roth.
You're too good to me, Joe. I don't know about the legend or the myth or anything. There may be some myths out there about me, but anyways, how's it going?
Man, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm attempting the show without headphones, so hopefully the audio is good.
Yep, sounds good. Sounds good. We've got some headphones on our end, so I think we're going to be able to cancel everything out.
Yeah, what you can't tell is I'm in $1 million studio with all this sound equipment around me. That's why it sounds so great. I don't have to have a microphone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everybody. Looks like you got a bunch of people tuned in and watching.
Yeah,
and a lot of fence people. This is awesome, man. Good morning.
Absolutely. Let's check in with a few people. We know who this is, Mr. Caruso. Good morning, Joe and Caleb. Excuse me.
Wet and
From
Rainy.
Wet and Rainy, Philadelphia. Hello, Chris. Appreciate you joining us. Chris is actually queued up before the live started. Appreciate that. Also queued up before the live, Front Rock Fences. If you watched our most recent reaction? Yeah, yesterday's reaction with Front Rock Fences. Good morning, Joe and Caleb. You have to try Cane's chicken, and it's cane sauce, not gravy. I stand corrected. It looked like gravy, but I guess it's cane sauce. No, we've got a Cane's here, but Mark and I were talking. I mean, your comment came up. We were talking about it a little bit, but then before that, we've got one Raising Cane's here, and it is always busy. And it's in the intersection, incredibly busy intersection, and every time I go by, it's packed. So I was like, maybe next time. But so what's funny about that reaction video, it's doing well, but the feedback is pretty consistent that no one builds fence in negative 55-degree weather. And I think people are, I don't know. People can be funny in the comments section, but it absolutely looked cold. So I'm with you. Speaking of somewhere that's cold, aloha fence, how we roll. Aloha from Heber, Utah. Caleb, let me just say your team has promised and delivered several times this week, most specifically. Very good.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
So what's funny? So I'm watching. What is it? The Greatest Race? Is that the no? It's where where groups of people race all around the world and all this. The Amazing Race. That's what it is. The one I watched last night was in Heber City. It was back from like this show. Have you heard of this show?
Nope.
The Amazing Race. Apparently, it has been going on for like 30 years. Every year they get, 10 teams of 2 or something anyway, and they race all around the world for $1 million.
Huh.
Now, here's the crazy thing. It's been going on for 30 years, and episode 1, $1 million to win. Episode, whatever it was this year, episode 30, I would assume, $1 million to win. So it's like, something tells me the $1 million today is not the same as the $1 million 30 years ago.
The support of the team is probably not quite what it used to be.
No. Anyway, Heber City. So I thought I was watching it last night. I was like, hey, I know a guy in Heber City.
Yep.
Kevin Poole, what is up? How are you, sir? Oh, okay. And Joe, you're pretty cool too. Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate that. What is up, Cannon Johnson? Cannon had a bit of a meeting of the minds there at his place a few days ago, it looked like. I was jealous. Kevin says it's rainy, but 65.
It's nice. It's nice here. It's the same, but hopefully, I guess we get his leftover weather here in Nashville.
Well, I'll tell you, so here in Southwest Missouri, it is 53, but sun is out, clear skies. It's supposed to get to like 75 today. So we are about that. And that concludes the weather portion of this show.
There you go.
My son Keaton is out stripping a fence and prepping today for stain.
There you go.
There you go. So this comment came through, Caleb, in what was it? It was one of the older videos we did about cleaning a fence and this and that, and the comment was about doing it in the rain. So I think that's something. There's just something nice about either cleaning or stripping or anything in the rain, because you get like a nice natural rinse on it as you go, and you don't have to worry about keeping it wet.
Cleaning fences in the rain or decks in the rain is the number one indicator that you need your sunny days for staining. That means you got jobs on the books. So welcome to the season, everybody. This is a great day to kick off the 2024 staining season.
That's right. Well, and the nice thing too is you don't actually, depending on how heavy it's raining, you don't really have to go back and worry about keeping anything wet. It's just automatically wet for a while.
Yeah, that's nice.
Alan Balding, what's up, Fence fam?
Good morning.
What's up, Alan?
Good morning.
Oh, all right. Well, Caleb, it feels like just yesterday, but Staining University was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
I don't know.
A little bit ago.
It seems like quite some time. It's quite some time, but yeah, I just can't help but be distracted by someone said it looks like I have a mullet because of the shadows.
Yeah, Dan did, yeah.
And maybe I do, maybe I don't. But anyways, yeah, Staining University went off very well this year. It was February 8th and 9th. So what is that? Almost 3 weeks ago, getting close to 4 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
today's the second. So 20 days, 22 days, something like that. So it's been a little while. It's been long enough for us to kind of come back and get back into the swing of the everyday life. And,
sure.
And for us, busy season has begun. And I don't know if everyone's has picked up, but for us, it's kicking off, and we're super excited. We had actually yesterday spent the whole day doing some team building stuff and a kind of a kickoff party. So if you called yesterday, we may not have been as responsive as normal, but I took manufacturing people, I put them answering the phones. I took phone answering people and put them in, ship and receiving. I put service guys answering the phone, and I just mixed everything up for the first part of the morning. Then we had a meeting. Then we had catered lunch. Then we did a team building exercise I stole from Matt Warner, where we built puzzles. We've had teams putting puzzles together, and we had leaders, undesignated leaders, but they were leaders, and then we kept swapping the teams and leaving the leaders there, see how they communicate, and then spent the afternoon doing some personal goal setting. And this was kind of our hoorah for getting the team to say, hey, you guys are teammates. Let's take care of one another, pick each other up if you fall down, and let's get ready for a kick butt season. So that's what Friday was about. March 1st for us it's go time.
Yep, absolutely. What we're seeing, it's interesting you say March 1st, because what we're seeing is prior to the pandemic and all, which like when we're talking about financial reporting, that doesn't count at all. Like that was just an odd time. But prior to that, we would slow down about Thanksgiving, or we would start to slow down about Thanksgiving. And then plus or minus a week of March 1st, we start kicking back up again, because we'd have like your lawn and garden shows, your home builder expos, your just all of these. And we were about a week early. So about a week ago, I mean, we've maintained, we've kept everyone busy, but about a week ago, we started really getting just a consistent stream of contracts and deposits in.
We've been consistent all winter long, thankfully. And like you said, the last couple of weeks, man, it's really been ramping up though. So everything looks good on our end. And I think for us as a manufacturer of stains, that's generally speaking, that's a good indicator that everyone is having that same pickup. If the stain guys aren't selling any stain, or the fence materials aren't selling for the fence suppliers, then that's a good indicator, because sometimes I think as an owner, operator, or contractor, if you're in a dip or a rut, you might feel like everybody is, but if everybody else is booming, it's kind of good to go, okay, well, maybe something I'm doing is just not working. I need to change. But I think it's going to be a great season. Some
markets lag too, it seems like. Now that we're in the social media age where we can, in a moment's notice, pull the entire country and figure out where everybody's at, it might feel like we're behind. And then a week goes by, the faucet turns on. You're like, oh, okay, well, my market was just, for whatever reason, a little bit behind these other markets.
Yep, for sure.
So we had a lawn and garden show last weekend, which is why we didn't have the live last weekend.
Okay.
And I'm telling you what, I was pleasantly surprised at the turnout. It's open. It was open 9 to 4 Friday, Saturday, 9 to 2, 9 to 3 on Sunday, or 10 to 3, I think, on Sunday. Well, Fridays is usually your older folks that are getting steps in. You know, they used to go to the mall. Now they go to Lawn and Garden Show just to see all the cool stuff that's there. And so usually my dad works it Friday and just, you know, to say hello, but we don't really have many people there. It's kind of a skeleton crew. He called about midday. He's like, "Hey, if one of you is free, I could use some support here." So Friday was busy. Saturday, we were really concerned with Saturday because it was in the 70s, but then everyone knew this week. So that was last weekend. Here we are today. The week in between, this past week, it was down into like the 20s and 30s. Everyone knew a cold snap was coming. So I was really concerned. I was like, if you're talking about me and my family, we would go to the park or something, or we would go outside the last nice day before a cold snap. Nope, not the case. It was shoulder to shoulder for a while Saturday, and Sunday was busy up until the last hour. So
That's good.
I think our customers are out there. I think they're ready to try to figure out what normal looks like outside of a pandemic. You try to remember what that was like. Yeah, I think we're in better shape than we thought we might be.
Well, I think so, and I think it's normal. I mean, I think the craziness of everybody talked about, you know, the economy's in a recession. It's not in a recession, man. I've been in a recession. This is not a recession. This is, you know, remember, guys, what is it that Zig Ziglar used to say? He said the mainstream media has successfully, accurately predicted 23 of the last 2 recessions. Right? So I don't think we're in a recession, man. We're just normalized. This is normal. It's actually better than normal. I have to say, I think it's still better than normal. If I was Donald Trump, I would say it's unlike anything we've ever seen before. You know, the economy right now is still nice.
Doing great. It's doing great.
Yeah.
It's doing great. It's huge.
In fact,
huge improvement.
Some might say this is the best 2024 we've ever had. You know, so it's going to be a good year, man. It really is.
Yeah,
it really is going to be good. And I'm not going to listen to anything that anybody tries to do to convince me otherwise.
No, and I think we're starting to remember what pre-pandemic levels were like. Right, that we did have seasons, because for at least in our business during the pandemic, there were no seasons. Mm-hmm. It was red line 12 months out of the year. Yeah. And it was just trying to keep up and trying to, you know, fix what breaks, but you can't fix it because you don't have time. You don't have team members to stop what they're doing to fix it. So you go get another one. And this winter we had a little bit of time to get a little bit ahead, maybe fix a few things that broke. So
when you go into winter and you say, this slowdown is going to be nice, we're going to have time to retool and revamp and fix things, and we've got all this time, and then before you know it, it's January. Before you know it, it's February 20th, and then before you know it, you're like, we didn't get it all done. You know, we got a lot of stuff done, but man, it's like you could take a year if you wanted to, really a year to just shut everything down and rebuild if you wanted. It would be worth it. But
well, and I think the lesson there is you just have to make time.
Life
right?
That
that you can't put off for tomorrow because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a song about that, but yeah. So what we tried to do. So yesterday was our first Friday. They used to be final Fridays, and then we had home shows and whatnot. So yesterday was our first Friday. It sounds much like yours but we'll basically do office projects or shop projects or like fix stuff that we need fixed. All the crews are here. Nobody goes out. Now there are some exceptions because one of our really good clients had somebody run into their post. So we did send a few guys out to fix that. But by and large, we realized that the slow season is not, we're never slow enough to fix everything. So you got to just take one day a month and fix what's broken, try to work ahead, have a good lunch. There's a little cafe down the street and had just phenomenal lunch. So you got to make time. That's the thing is don't assume you'll have time.
That tri-tip, that Ozark fence tri-tip's pretty good.
Man, you're not kidding. It's finally getting nice enough to where I think tri-tip might be on the menu next month. I hope.
Okay.
Man, it's good. That tri-tip's pretty good stuff. But let's say hello to a few more people. What is up, Aaron Preston? Hello. So let's see. Let's say hello, and then we've got a question. Well, we got a few questions in here. Let's see. Kevin saying, no slowdown here. I love that. The changes with methods and the more options for quality and durability have positioned us to offer more options, and we have more to educate customers with, which makes for more contacts. Absolutely. I think there's something to be said there, Kevin, about just staying current with market offerings. My business has been guilty in the past of saying, this is what we do. This is what we're known for. This is what we do really well. We're gonna try a project next week that is outside of our comfort zone, but trying to stay current. So kudos, Kevin, on staying current with the market. Landmark Creations, another Kevin. What's up, Kevin? Morning, Fence fam.
Morning, sir.
Alan Johnson says good morning. Good morning. Caleb, did you see this? This was at Fence. The Fence Deck's the first place I saw it, and I've seen it a lot since.
Yeah.
Reality Fence.
I saw that, man. That's a pretty cool device, or pretty cool option for your device.
Yeah.
I like it. I think I don't totally understand all the options. I think it would be super cool if you could just take this thing and then send, you want to take it a step further. How many guys say, well, I need to talk to my wife about it. And, I'm going to hit them back with, you've been married a long time, 5 years. I'm like, well, what do you think she's going to say? Right?
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't work. And so I think it would be really cool if Reality Fence, and they may already do this, but how cool would it be to send like a 24-hour temporary link to have access so that they could see the video you made in their yard? And I'm sure they've already thought of this, but man, that'd be super cool if you could show that to your customer where they could see it after hours and really go out there on the weekend and look and say, you know what, we do want to do this. I think that's just a killer tool that if I would have had it back, 15 years ago when I was doing fence, I would have been dangerous, man.
Oh yeah. Or, we're talking about a follow-up. So in your follow-up sequence, the first follow-up, we typically do a proposal follow-up after 4 days. It would be that picture. And the question would just be, are you ready to make this fence a reality? Or, something like that. Let me know. I'm always happy to talk or something. Twice in the last month, we've had out-of-state buyers. So this last one was moving in from the West Coast. Seems like all the West Coast people are coming into the Midwest. They had bought a home, very nice home, and they wanted us to do their fence. They'd done some market research. They said, we'd like you to do our fence. But they're having trouble. They said, could you send me a picture of the fence and send me the layout of how you think it would look great in our yard? And they were trying to visualize what the fence was going to look like so that what they're wanting done is they want the fence done when they move in. So that because they're bringing dogs with them and they don't want us. Yeah. I mean, we can absolutely, they're moving like 6 weeks. Like, I think we could take care of that. Yep, you got it. But how great would it be to have this Reality Fence tool to send them with a video? Hey guys, here's where I'm visioning this fence to go. It goes from this corner, it goes to your lot line here, then it goes back to this fence. I think it could be an incredible sales tool.
100%, no doubt. Now, let's just see. I guess the real question is going to be on the leadership of Reality Fence. Are they able to get it out on time? Did they launch it at the right time? Is it able to take on the load of all the users? Is it able to, do they have it done? Is it ready to roll? Because that's the thing. It's time to go, and hopefully they've got all the infrastructure built up so that when it does, I guess it's launched.
It is
now that it's launched. Hopefully, this thing, is it free or do you have to pay for it?
It's probably a pay for subscription.
You should pay for it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't.
Yeah, and this is not a cheap thing to build. So yeah, 100%. No. Hopefully they've got enough subscribers to make this thing rock out and go hard, man. This is a really cool thing.
Well, everyone was talking about it at Fence Tech.
Yeah.
So which begs your question: Are they ready to scale this thing in a very quick way?
Yeah. They
were showing 1.0 there, but they were already talking. Actually, Sean King was just kind of showing me a quick version of their 2.0. And so it seems like they're revising fairly quickly just based on feedback they're getting. So we've got a couple paid comments, so I'd like to bring those up real quick. Adriano says, Joe, can you do more reviews of that Jeff Thorman guy? So this would be the Renovision DIY. I've got some great news for you. How many do we have queued up? We are. Well, so we've got a lot out there. In the last 2 weeks, we've had a lot out there. So, but I feel sure that there will be more coming. You can also go back and watch previous Renovision DIY. We've done, I can't tell, we've done a lot of videos of his.
So you can pay to do comments now? That's pretty crazy.
Yes. So, Adriano, thank you so much. So the first one was $2. This one is 10 Australian dollars. So Jeff Thorman, Renovision DIY did a bench top for a client and cracked it on install. And then said, it's all right, the customer will accept it. Nah. Yeah. So in this, I'm not going to say anything that's not public information. You could do research yourself in the Canadian court system. But it sounds like this is not a unique situation, unfortunately.
When you're the problem, I think, in the world is that we don't have as many craftsmen as we used to have, and we don't have as many people who are a lot more people. A lot more Americans will they put their nose down now when they get caught with their head down, doing their job, and they don't pay attention. In the old days when we were coming up, a lot of you guys, I am 35. But I was very privileged to have been raised by some old school guys, because a lot of people my age and your age, Joe, they weren't raised the way we were. But I think that I was raised pretty much like most Generation X's, Generation Xers were. Man, all the old timers that I worked around, there was like they never spoke like and said, these are our values, like in a training session. But when you were on a job site, if you were doing any type of work, they said, we're going to do this and we're going to do it right. And we're not going to leave here till it's right. And in 1,000 variations of that sentence was beat into my head all growing up, through my father, through my grandfathers, through other men on job sites, and then through other people that I worked for. And I guess I got very, very lucky that I never worked for someone that didn't care and didn't hold a high standard. And also those people taught. They were teachers. In the old days, it seemed like all the old timers were teachers. Every time you'd get around an old guy, he would teach you. He would take the time and he would say, listen, son, this is how you do this. And a lot of times they'd let you make a mistake. They'd let you smash your thumb with a hammer. And then they'd say, well, just hold the nail with the bottom side, the fat of your finger. And if you hit the fat part, it won't hurt. Right. and they would teach us these things. And we don't do that anymore. I think that maybe some of these guys on the internet that are doing things, they just didn't have the privilege of getting yelled and screamed at by guys for doing things the wrong way, or by not having the integrity to do it the right way, even if they knew better. And so I think the opportunity here is for every man, woman, and child who's watching this show is to raise their standard, and to have such a high standard, and actually take the time to say, look, man, there's a reason we're doing this, and this is the way it is. But I think also that another part of the problem is that a lot of people still do that, but the culture has shifted. And if you raise your voice or kind of get a little bit, rough with a young man, there's even been guys in our organization that are, one day out of high school come to work for us, and they want to be respected like a guy who's been a 40-year-old journeyman on the job. And the problem is the young guys need to have open ears and understand that if the old guy's raising his voice and yelling at me, the reason is not because he's a jerk or because he's doesn't like me. It actually probably means the old man actually likes me. And whether I realize it or not, my brain will remember when he yells, when he smacks me, when he gets in my face. It rattles you, and your brain goes, oh, I need to remember this. And it sinks in. And all of those things that happen to you before you're 20 kind of become permanently burned into yourself. So I think the young guys got to lay the ego aside and say, you know what, if this old man yells at me, I'm going to listen to him. And I think the older guys like us and way on up older, man, we got to quit being so soft on these young guys. We got to get in their face a little bit and tell them, man, that we got to do this job right. We're here. And if we do that, in a world, I feel like I'm going on a rant here, but in a world where tradesmen are getting fewer and fewer, if you actually do get in some of these young guys' faces and instill those values of doing the job right, imagine the difference it will make in their lifetime earning potential as they get older. So there's my rant. That's what's been on my mind. And there's a lot of stuff in the culture that's got to go back to the way it was. A lot of things need to change in one way, but a lot of things need to go back. And I think it'll make a big difference with situations exactly like what we're talking about here.
Well, Caleb, you probably know this saying. So what the saying is, soft times lead to soft men, and soft men lead to hard times, or something like that.
Yeah, what is it? Good men or hard men make good times make soft men make hard times, or bad times make hard men make good times, right?
Yep.
It's the cycle.
It's a cycle. It really is. One thing, and I'll agree here. Preach, Caleb. This is a message I think that needs to be heard, just not necessarily only in our industry, right? Like, I think the message you're saying applies to construction trades in general. I mean, go talk to a plumber, talk to an electrician, talk to, a foundation company, talk to any of these trades. They're saying, hey, young guys and gals aren't coming into our trades. And when they do, they leave super quick. And it's like, well, maybe, that could be a few things, right? It could absolutely be just kids are treated with soft hands, and thinking that, because the thought is maybe that, at least in our household, like, I want our kids to be better off than I was. Like, that's kind of it seems to be a general theme. I want them to have a better life than I've had, just to try to improve everybody all around us. But I almost wonder if we do them a disservice
100%.
by treating, by caring for them with soft hands rather than maybe letting them struggle a little bit and figure it out, because resiliency is huge. Teaching them to problem solve on their own and come up with their own solutions. And to your point, they could be the wrong solutions, but a lot of times, at least for me, I learn almost just enough, if not more, by doing it wrong and then figuring out what I did wrong and then figuring it out how to do it right than I did if someone would have just said, okay, here's step 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, you did a great job. Like, well, I don't know if I retain that as well.
Right. But the problem is when you or I do a bad job, there's consequences as a business owner.
Sure.
Or as a subcontractor, as someone who has skin in the game, there's a consequence if you do it wrong. And then and there's a responsibility as well to make it right, to fix it. A lot of the guys that are on crews that are, they're just team members. I hate to say just team members, but they are. You're just a team member until you work your way up and you start having skin in the game. As just a team member, a lot of times there is no consequence. And I think a lot of the old timers are the guys who really want to make sure things are done hardcore and right. And I say hardcore because, right, you're not hardcore unless you live hardcore, as the School of Rock would say. These guys, we get fed up. And if you're a coach and you're a doer and there's a line in the middle and you get fed up, what do you generally do? What do you default to? I'll just go do it myself. Go do it myself. And eventually you just go do it yourself, and you get jaded and you realize, you know what? The next generation is screwed. It's not looking good. At least the guys on my crew, I'm done. I'm now going to focus on myself and my family. I'm going to work my tail off, and I'm going to put my energy into myself and my kids. Whereas used to be, I'm telling you, man, the old timers, it didn't matter. You'd meet a guy on the street, a World War II veteran or something, and he'd be like, if you were on the side of the road changing your tire, he'd stop and help, and he would literally, he'd help you if you needed help, but he'd be like, you better put that jack a little further under there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't do it, it's like, okay, but now and they would walk you through these things, and they would actually take the time. And we got to open up the young people's. We got to back the ego off a little bit on both sides. The young guys' egos, we got to lay our egos aside, and us older guys, myself included, we got to lay our ego aside and go, you know what, I'm gonna, if you'll give some, I'll give some. And if we both pull on the same end of the rope, I think we can really build our companies up better. But I really tell you what, man, I think back a lot. I worked in the fence business growing up my whole life. We did landscaping. for a great big part of my life. Fire service was in fire department. I did built and installed commercial ductwork, and everywhere, every one of those jobs, there were hard guys there, and every one of them would get in your business and get in your face if they needed to, and they'd love on you if they needed to, But every single one of them, if you got in trouble, they'd come get you. If you were in a burning building in trouble, they would come drag you out, and you knew that, you trusted it. And I look back, man, and I go, and this message here is for the 20-year-old, and or that's listening, or the 25-year-old maybe, because some people, mature faster than others, or the 28-year-old that just can't figure it out, keeps beating against the wall and getting the same result. Man, if you will not bow down, I'm trying to think of the word, you're not submitting. You're setting your ego aside, and you go, I'm going to listen. And you can get mad. There's plenty of times I was mad. The worst thing, how many times, Joe, you ever hear it when somebody go, you're trying to do a job and you're about 20 years old and then you can't get it, and they go, you can't send a boy to do a man's job. You ever hear something like that? They know what
once or twice, yeah.
But the old men knew that wasn't to belittle you. That was to piss you off and make you go, you know what? I am a man, and I'm going to start acting like one. And I think if you look back on anybody who was raised hard like that, they look back and they go, thank God for it. Thank God for that. And so I think if you're listening and maybe you're butting heads with somebody above you, maybe take a minute and listen. And because if you do take on that discipline, it will stay with you for life. And man, you'll look back and you'll be so glad of that. And the same thing with the guys that are a little older. Take a little more time and maybe explain yourself, because we're not dealing with the same people our granddads and our dads were dealing with. They were dealing with us when they said something to us. We were like, well, we'll just prove you wrong. You can't build that fence in a day. Watch. You can't pick that up. Watch. Nowadays, if you say you can't pick that up, a lot of the young guys say, well, you're disrespecting me and you shouldn't talk to me that way. So we're not dealing with the same people. So our approach does need to be somewhat different. So we need to start studying that and figuring that out. And I'm talking really right now to myself, because I'm seeing this in my own company with the young guys. What I'm seeing, here's what I'm seeing. It's a crazy thing. I never thought I would see this. The young farm kids, the kids that grow up on the farm, they're not what they used to be.
Yeah.
And I've always put a high priority into let's hire farm kids from farm schools that have hauled hay and done things before. And they're not the same. They don't have the work ethic, and nobody's ever been hard on them. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm noticing that young college graduates, they actually, maybe they don't know everything they need to know. Maybe the college trade didn't teach them. Like if you come out, what Mark Olson talked about, the welding school, like you got a degree in welding and you can't run a bead. You see some of that. You don't learn everything in college, but what the college kids are doing when they come into our business now, that I notice, is they know how to work, and they know how to take direction. And they may not like it, just like we didn't like it when Granddad got onto us, but they, at least in college, they're teaching them to work, and they're giving them some work ethic. And I think that's the thing. A lot of guys say, well, I'm not going to go to college. I'm not going to do this. And I spent a very brief time in college, and I'm sort of against college in many ways, but I'm seeing that these college kids are going to outdo the farm boys if the farm boys don't step up. If the guys that are going to be tradesmen, and I'm not talking to everybody. There's some guys going, he's not talking about me. I'm not talking about you, but there's some people here listening that I am talking about. And I'm noticing, man, the freaking college kids are learning how to work harder than the boys who just come off the farm. And that's a problem. We got to fix it. And that's about what I got to say about that.
No, listen, Caleb, I loved every minute of that. No, I think one thing college does, and so I agree. Like I'm on Mike Rowe's side on this, is like we preached college for too long, and too many people went to get random degrees and then walked out with 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand in debt, nothing to show for it. I agree that that's absolutely worthless. You shouldn't go just to go. But I think one thing it does, well, here's how I'll explain it. So I went and talked the town I live. So our office is in Springfield. I live in a town called Republic. I went and spoke to the workforce development class at Republic High School. And I was talking to the teacher beforehand. I was like, what message are we going for here? Like what are we trying to push across? I'd love to help you with that. And she said, well, probably half the class is not going to graduate, or they're on the cusp of not graduating high school. And a lot of them talk about just wanting to go straight into the workforce and then maybe get their GED later. So, okay, all right, I can understand that message. And so when I got in front of them, I said, guys, listen, if you come and you interview here and I see that you haven't finished high school, that's going to tell me that the first big thing in life that you got handed, you didn't finish when you put it off. Mm-hmm. Right. And it was free to go. It was, let's be honest, the hours aren't bad. Right. And anymore you're in an air conditioned building with, I don't want to get into like uphill both ways sort of thing, but when I was in school, we didn't have air conditioning and the heat was either off or it was a full-blown furnace. So the fact that there's climate control in these schools now, like it's not so bad, guys, I promise you. But so you're in a great scenario and you're set up to succeed. That's the thing is a lot of these schools, a whole different topic is a lot of these schools are just motivated to get kids through, and the coursework isn't as stringent and the testing maybe is a little bit more lax and, sliding grading scales and all this stuff. But like if you don't finish this, what are you going to finish? Right? If you're given a task, will you get halfway through or 3/4 of the way through and then go, I'll finish it later? Mm-hmm. You're already setting yourself up for a life of I'll do it later, when in the workforce that doesn't work, right? If you're given a task, yes, expectation is that task gets done right then. So, and it's the same thing with college. It's meeting expectations, and college is it takes that to a different level because college is voluntary. Like you got to go to school. College is voluntary and someone's paying for you to be there. So it's being there voluntarily, paying for the opportunity to be there, meeting deadlines, whether they be small, hey, get your work in by tomorrow, or there's a midterm coming up, or a big group projects, working with other people. I mean, I've heard this from my kids, I've got a daughter in high school, and hey, we were in this group and this person just wasn't pulling their weight and it's not fair and I shouldn't be judged on them not carrying their weight. Like, hey, here's the thing, kiddo. That's life. Is you're in the workforce and in life, you could be paired with somebody that doesn't carry what you view as being their full weight.
Yeah.
You're going to have to overcome.
Let me give a disclaimer on my experience with hiring college graduates. I've hired, we have several people that have graduated college that are older, and I don't know if they worked themselves through college or not. They're established. The young people we've hired, we always hire them that have worked themselves through college or are finished and worked themselves through college. Yep. Because I think they get that grit. The thing is, a lot of guys that don't go to college really want to. I think the problem that I see with a lot of young guys, and maybe the approach we need to take is to say, how can you ever be a leader in this organization or any organization if you don't do X, Y, or Z, if you don't take direction, if you don't do these things properly? And I think the problem is so many young people nowadays. Like, I think we see this highlight reel of everybody's life, and everybody thinks that everybody's a CEO of some corporation or something. CEO's not really fun. I'm trying my best to not be a CEO. I can't wait to be able to hand that to someone else. There's the happiest guys that I see in the trades, man. The happiest guys I see are the ones who always do it right. I will die before I do this job wrong, because I'm the kind of person who does it right every single time. And those guys, man, they're always happy. No matter what you put in front of them, they'll go, oh, you want me to do this? Okay, we're going to be here for a while. You know, those are always the happiest guys, and they're always the greatest guys to work with and work around. And so, anyways, hire old timers in your business that have a heart of gold and a teacher's heart. And you young guys, man, open up your learning potential, open up that ego, and really soak it in. Because what did Dana White say from the UFC? He said anybody. He said these UFC fighters aren't the same. He said anybody who comes in and is a savage just a little bit, he said they walk all over everybody. And he said the same is true in life. He said, I'm going to tell my kids, if you're just the least bit savage as you grow up, he said, you'll dominate everyone. And I think what we need is a lot more of that savage American spirit, because we're Americans. Look back at our history that you got to kind of dig for it nowadays. But if you look at what America means and what America was built on, we are all savages, and we all came from savages. And I sort of refuse to look back at all my ancestors who did all those savage things. Man, I got people in my family that did some stuff that's just unbelievable, and everybody's got that in us. I refuse to just lay down and be like, they did all that stuff just so I can just lay around and drive a Tesla or something, you know? So I think, man, we got a responsibility we really got a responsibility to lay a foundation for the next generation.
Yep. I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Catch up here a little bit. Mark Kinsler says, hey, Joe, checking in, brother. Hello, Mark. How are you? Fence monster for life. I like that. Craig, I think Craig's saying what I think everybody's thinking. Was not expecting Caleb to be preaching today, but we love it. Absolutely.
Yep.
Adriano has another comment. Joe, you have to review Jeff uses a cup wheel grinder to concrete countertops. Brand new house with no dust extraction. House fills with cement dust. And he's not wearing a mask. Well, you can't fix some things or some people. But here's the thing with these reaction videos. One, Jeff does a horrible job at building fence. I mean, it's just I don't think a fence professional could watch his work and say, I mean that's passing. I don't think so. But I also know nothing about concrete countertops, right? So now I can agree with you on dust extraction, not filling a house with concrete dust and not wearing some sort of respirator. But for this channel, it's probably not. Listen, if you go into the comment section of some of our recent Jeff videos, there's a lot of people that are fed up with our reaction videos of Jeff because we did do several back-to-back. So I think we're going to let him cool for a little bit. Adriano goes on to say, the old-timers are the best, but these clumsy YouTubers, well, hey, easy. They have no experience. All right.
He's talking about the clumsy ones, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally different.
They have no experience or precise skills or teaching people the wrong thing. I absolutely agreed, Adriano. Absolutely agree. And that's one of the purpose or one of the motivators behind some of the reaction videos. Listen, like I said, I see all the comments for better or worse. And I absolutely understand the sentiment of, well, you're just creating content based on somebody else's content. Why don't you go out there and create content on your own? Well, we do. But there's a whole different thing here about the algorithm is serving you content that it knows that you will watch completely and comment on. And you watched this and you commented on it. So the algorithm wins here. But there is a lot of bad information out there on, hey, this is how you do it. And I think we're seeing this in our world right now in that everything is black and white. It is either this way or it's wrong. There's one way to do things, and that's it. To illustrate this point, we did a video, it was September of last year, and we put out a video on Quikrete. And I had said the way when we're doing repair, I think fast setting Quikrete is great. I think there's a place for it in the industry. We'll put water at the bottom of the hole. We'll put Quikrete in, water on top of the hole, compact and compress. You wait half hour, 45 minutes. That post is ready to rock. And there's so many people who are like, oh, what are you talking about? You don't need water. You don't need to do this and that. Like there's enough water in the ground. I think we both remember the time in the fencing industry not too long ago that dry compaction, dry pack was a method that was being put out there pretty hard. So I was like, okay, I mean, listen, to each their own. I'm telling you how I would do it. By all means, if you don't want to do it. So this year, last week before, we did another reaction video where it was fast, set, quick, create. And I said, hey, I mean, you could just compact this. This guy was adding water, said you could just compact it and not add water. Oh, Caleb, let me tell you, what is it? Well, anyway, I don't want to get into all the comments because we're probably going to do a video solely on some of these comments. But basically, it's like, your shirt's too clean for you to know what you're talking about. And you've obviously never used concrete before and all this stuff. But
and
it's like
it all works. It all freaking works.
That's the thing. It's like, so I did one video with water, one video without water, or talking about we use water, one that says you don't have to use water. And they both filled up with comments saying, well, aren't you the village idiot because you've got to do it this other way? It's like, well, okay.
Asking fence builders is really the wrong thing. You should really ask the fence taker downers.
Right.
Let's talk to the guys who are removing fence and let's find out. But yeah, it all works, man. We've done it all.
Well, it does, but I think the point is there are always more than one way. Right. There is no one way. This is how it has to be, or everything's wrong.
Yeah.
I think we need to understand that. Now,
you go some
there are
places,
some pretty bad ways.
Yeah, you go some places and they tell you never to use concrete. You got to use gravel. You got to use stone.
Yeah.
You got to use. I mean, the thing is when the Tower of Babel happened, I think we all went in different directions with different languages, right? And we all figured out different ways of doing things. And you go to different parts of the world or different parts of the country, there's 1,000 ways that work to set a fence post. And here we are talking about two of them, which is right or wrong. And, really, if you want to know, if you really look at it, many times the best cures are free, right?
Yeah.
So could it be said that the concrete industry maybe has fooled us long ago that concrete is really not necessary to do a fence post? Because there's some guys that I know of who set a fence post in stone.
Yep.
You ain't getting it out. You're not going to get it out. It'll be there in 50 years, So,
well, those comments are there too.
Yeah.
Just about you could, crush stone, small gravel, or just tamp back in with the dirt that's there. And talking about old school farmers, that's what they did. If my granddad did not set the post in his pasture in concrete, right? He drove T-post, or then he would use crushed stone around the corners. So there's probably something to that too.
Well, and the thing about that is the guy who builds 1,000 fences a year never comes back to them. The farmers, a lot of the farmers were on the same piece of land multi-generationally, and they knew. We had a farm, and we knew in 1946 they built this fence with split rail creosote post, and they're still in the ground and solid because right after World War II, when they came back, they built this fence. We knew when it was built. And it didn't have concrete on it, none. And we like to broke our freaking Bobcat trying to get those posts out. So we just left them and built the new fence on the old post. But that tells you how treatments used to be, how good the treatment used to be. The thing is, when you're multi-generational, you no longer think of things on what's fast. You think of what's going to last the longest. Yep. And so I think looking at what the farmers did, the farmers weren't pulling off of the internet. They were pulling off of 300 years of knowledge that their family brought to them. So I think we find ourselves to be maybe remiss or to be slightly foolish to think that some of those old methods weren't superior to what we may be doing now. Faster, maybe not.
Well, and that's the thing. So I do understand the benefit of innovation, right? Mm-hmm. I'm absolutely glad that I can drive my truck to work instead of riding a horse to work, right? So some innovation is great. But I think we need to look at it through a lens, though, of like, what is the benefit, right? If it's just that you can do it faster, that's maybe not the right deal. And so what comes to mind with this thought is expanding foam as used in fence for fence posts, right? We did.
Nobody says, "Well, my granddaddy used this foam."
Right. But there are some people that are like, I used it for some of these fence posts, and it's been up for 7 years, and it's just as strong today as it was then. Like, well. I don't know that 7 years is a good trial period.
Yeah, a good friend of mine built this huge fence with foam, and then like a year later, every single post got loose. The foam separated off the post. It was terrible.
Yep. Yep.
For-
So innovation just for the sake of innovation, probably not.
well,
But
that's what we learn, trial and error, right?
yeah. Yep. Absolutely agree. French Bully's got a question. I like the French Bulldog. Just take a second to admire the thumbnail. French Bulldogs are great. Absolutely.
Yep.
My neighbor wants to install a fence along our property line themselves. How do I tell them I prefer a professional to install? One thing is, one person's opinion, I would never install a fence on a property line. Not ever. Because then it becomes mutual property. Well, in the state of Missouri, it becomes mutual property when installed on a property line. So
this is a farm versus residential question, probably. For
Yeah.
us, it's the same. Residential, you're usually pulling it off unless they're splitting the thing. But on a farm, generally, when you buy a farm, generally in the South, there's going to be 4 sides, right, and 4 fences. And if you got 4 neighbors, everybody sort of, the rule is when we replace that fence, we're going to do it together, and it's on the property line because it's been on the property line for 200 years.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts, Joe? How do you tell them that?
It's a hard conversation, but I mean, so I'm going to take this from the perspective that it's in somebody's yard, right?
Yep.
That's a residential.
2 inches in the line.
Yep. What? So we're 6. We're 6 inches in, and here's
Okay.
why: is we got involved in, and we were excused from it eventually, but we got roped into a property line dispute that involved a fence. And what they said was, if any part of the fence touches the property line, then the fence is mutual property. Well,
Okay.
So we've got our fence post, say it's a couple inches in. The footer on that crosses the property line. So they say that the concrete, the footer on this post encroaches the property line, or it passes the property line. The concrete's attached to the post. The post is attached to the rails. It's attached to the pickets. This was a wood fence. And the whole fence
fence
becomes
attached to the
mutual
house?
property. Not ours isn't, but
Well, if the fence is attached to the house, does that also make the house mutual property?
mutual property. I don't know. I could not leave that conversation fast enough. I was like,
Yeah.
no thank. I don't know why I'm here. We didn't even install the fence, but we had done some repair elsewhere on the property, so we were just like the last fence guy to be there, or fence company to be there. So after that, now that was years ago. After that, we learned our lesson and said we're 6 inches in, so that no part of this fence post is going to touch that property line, so that no one can say that fence is part of the mutual property. Because here's how I explain it is, and if I'm talking to the customers, like you and this neighbor could get along great. You could be best friends. What happens when neighbor moves and someone else comes in, and now it's a fight? Right? Maybe they do something you don't like, or you do something they don't like. This whole thing gets litigious, and now all of a sudden this fence gets roped into whatever argument you guys are having, and they decide that they're going to tear down half of it. It's mutual property.
Yeah.
So,
You've
or
seen
they, or they
people
hang
that
stuff on it, or whatever
the whole side of a fence,
Yeah, or they stain their side, right? They painted it pink or whatever it is, and because it's mutual property, then they have a right to do that. If it's 6 inches in, there's no quarrel,
So
right?
how do you tell them as a neighbor, how do you tell them that you want a professional install?
I think you offer to pay half.
I was going to say, you better get your checkbook out.
Yep. Say, listen, I can appreciate you wanting to do this yourself. And maybe it's not financially motivated. Typically it is, right? So typically it's, well, I could build this fence for half myself, and I've watched this Jeff guy build a fence before, so I think I know what I'm doing.
Well, some men are retired.
Right. And so that's the other side of it.
Sometimes, the daughter has moved into her first house and dad is retired, and he's like, you know what, I can build the fence and I need something to do.
Yeah.
And you sometimes you wind up with fantastic craftsmanship like that,
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like to our point earlier, if it's a gentleman from the older generation, it's probably going to be done really well.
Yeah. You never know. I mean, I guess a lot of it's going to depend, but I tend to agree with you. I think in order to really have any right to at all to the situation, you have to be financially involved. And I think that's where you walk over and go, this fence, if you build it, it's $2,000. If you pay a construction company or a fence builder to build it, it's $5,000. What if we both paid $2,500 and we just got a fantastic Gopher Wood fence? Wouldn't that be awesome, right?
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad you brought up Gopher Wood because we still need to go. We still need to go there, and we're an hour. How are you set for time, Caleb? I want to be.
My wife will start texting me if there's if there's an emergency. So
okay,
I'll be here
because I want to get to Gopher Wood because I want to get there. But I think this is a good conversation to have. So to your point, yeah, I'm going to pay $2,500 of that. I'm going to pay my half of it. Your half would be $2,500. But the benefit being, one, this thing's going to get done likely a heck of a lot quicker, and we have somebody that we can call if there's a warranty deal or the gates, right? The gates are always a thing. So
I do think if you go over there without an offering to pay, it may not paint you in the best light. No matter how kind or nice or anything, even if you're best friends with the neighbors, I think if you come over there and you just say, I really prefer that you didn't mow your grass on 4 inches. I prefer you mow your grass on 3. I think that's just opening yourself up maybe to give your neighbors a bad taste in your mouth about you. I know in Tennessee that we'd be like, where are you from? So I think the checkbook is the way out of that one.
Well, and so French bully, I think it starts with probably asking the question on why, right? Like, so why yourself as a professional, and that will kind of indicate which way the conversation goes. And then offering to do the legwork on it. So saying, one, I'd be happy to pay for half.
I'll pay for a survey,
Right. I'll call it. Let me do this. I'll do some research. I'll figure out 3 companies that are all reviewed well, that have good feedback. They're in good standing with Better Business, whatever in your area you do to denote which contractors are quality. I'll do the legwork on this, and then I'll bring them to you, and we can sit down and we can go over them and figure out which one makes sense for both of us. How does that sound? And you can even say, hey, before we go down this road, I'm not saying that we won't, but before we go down the road of you having to build this thing yourself, let's do a little research and just see where we're at. And then if we still don't come to an agreement, there we are. And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. If they're dead set on building it themselves, I would still pay for the survey. Say, hey, I want to make sure just everybody knows. I don't know exactly where this line is. I would probably want to know where all my property lines are in the future. I'm just going to have a survey done. And then if you wouldn't mind keeping your fence 6 inches in, that way it doesn't become construed as mutual property, and go from there. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's tough stuff. The best thing to do, in my opinion, is to walk next door, knock on your neighbor's door, shake their hand, bring them a box of cookies or some homemade cookies, and make friends and just have a really good community there.
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier to make a deal with a friend, talk about a fence with a friend than it is with a foe. So I think just lock arms and what is it? Together we stand, divided we fall. So I think just make some friends with the neighbors and talk about it, man.
Yep. Yeah. First step is the conversation.
Great leaders ask great questions. So I think if you do ask them, you might start off just asking some questions. Hey man, why are you building the fence? Why are you building it yourself? What kind of fence? Why do you want a privacy fence? Why do you, whatever? You may find out that they're fixing to buy 16 Great Dane Lhasa Apso mixed dogs, and you might just want to move anyway. So you never know.
That is an image, a Great Dane Lhasa Apso mix.
Yeah.
That'd be something. Oh, all right. Adriana has another comment. Says, Jeff's easiest deck build is a disaster. Didn't notch out the post to secure the bears. Solely relying on the bolts. No block studs or joists. Adriano, here's the thing: this is getting beyond my pay grade. Now, what you're saying absolutely makes sense, but I think we can all agree, like, Jeff's not the best person to take advice from. So this doesn't surprise me, but it's probably not a video that we would do a reaction on, just because I can't speak from a professional standpoint on how to build decks. But I hear you. You never, whether it's a fence or a deck, you never want to rely on just the fasteners. And good point. You can never stop learning. I think that's a good thing to take away from this whole thing is, here's the thing is that's why I go to bring this all back around like a pro show would. That's why I go to State University. right? And I think that's why we see people year in and year out at Standing University, so that we can continue to learn both in the structured learning and in the learning that takes place outside of the structured learning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would say roughly half the people at Standing University I recognized from being either there or at Fence Tech or at any one of these other training opportunities. I think that's a great point that that we can absolutely benefit from continuing our education. So this one more comment on this, and then I really do want to get into Gopher Wood. Don Parks. Don, thank you for watching. Appreciate you joining in the conversation. My HOA requires me to approach the neighbors to sign off. I think that's great. All but one neighbor signed off. Uh-oh. HOA approved it anyway. That was a good way to upset my nosy neighbor. I like the idea that you have to talk to the neighbors, right? This was what we were just talking about. Now, the reason HOA is requiring it is because that's something that's not done as often anymore. Someone will just do something at random. Now, the neighbor that didn't sign off, it might beg the question why, So to Caleb's point earlier, great questions lead to more understanding. It might have been good to figure out why they didn't want a fence and come to some sort of compromise, but also, it's like, hey, I've got kids and I've got a pet, and I don't think we want them in your yard. And my 3-year-old does not understand property boundaries. I can't tell her, see where the mow line stops? Don't go past that. She's like, well, there's a play set right there, and I love playing on play sets.
Yeah, I would, I get it, but I come from Tennessee, and you come from Missouri. It's not much different, but I come from Tennessee, and to me, absolutely insanity to have to ask my neighbor permission to put in a new mailbox, but that's to each his own. It's different, and there's a lot of good things and a lot of, there's a lot of good things about living in the neighborhood. When you're on the farm and the neighbor's ready to change the fence out and he wants to do it himself, and it's 4,500 feet and he's retired and you're not, and then you can't help him because you're busy at work, and then he thinks you're a jerk. It's like, there's other problems too in the country, man. That's the way it is. So.
Well, and I think the reason this HOA is requiring it is because we've lost that skill of just being one with the neighbors, right? To your point, going over there not just when there's a problem or not just when you need something, just on a Friday evening say, hey, we're cooking and I've probably bought more food than we're going to eat. You guys want to come over for some dinner, sort of thing. And so I think but the reason I think the HOA is requiring it is so that it gets the neighbors involved in the conversation, right? So that a neighbor can't say, well, I didn't know anything about this fence going up. So Don continues it to say, the neighbor that didn't want the fence didn't want to see a wall of wood, so installing a privacy fence, it sounds like, and wanted to look in our yard. Well, so if that was the answer, if that was her answer, I mean, Don, my answer would be much the same. Like, well, the fence is going up, because now I'm even more motivated to build in some privacy here. But it's always good to talk to people. It's always good to talk things out first. How many times, Caleb, have you heard of a misunderstanding that came about simply because there wasn't communication before? And it's not necessarily only with fence, but something was done, there was no conversation before, and then it snowballed into a massive misunderstanding.
Well, communication's always really good. There was a guy I saw the other day, and he had a black eye, and I said, what happened? And he said, well, I was sitting on the couch, and my wife said, shut up. But I thought she said, stand up. And, that's what happened. So communication's important, right?
Yep. Clear communication and clear understanding of the communication. Yeah. No, but no.
So what is new in the fence industry, Joe? Is there like something aside from the tools and aside from the apps and things like that? Are you seeing trends of like vinyl fence or fence track or wood fence? What are you seeing trends? Like, what's the next thing? Is there like a new space age composite material that's coming out, or are things still saying good old same old wood fence?
I think they're same old. I think you see markets that are just changing what they want to see. So our market historically has been chain link, wood, some ornamental, whether it's steel or aluminum. there's a couple companies here in town that do vinyl. They've got their own routers. They'll bring in blank stock and cut their own. We never did get into it just because it wasn't in mass demand. We didn't get that many calls for it, and the investment seemed to be a bit much for what we needed. But now, so at this local the lawn and garden show, we had a lot of requests for vinyl. Do you guys do vinyl privacy? Do you want? And can you guess at the reason why? Maintenance free.
Low maintenance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Low maintenance free, which was a great segue. We had some pre-stained fence pickets. We had some that were unstained, some that were pre-stained. And so that was a great time to sit and talk about, well, we actually have a solution that is a natural product. So it's natural product. It looks a little bit nicer, it doesn't look like a manufactured product, but it looks nicer because it's also pre-stained, which is going to resist. And then we went into talking to them about it and said, with this product, honestly, you can clean it every year if you want to. You could clean it every other year if it gets bad. Every 3 to 5 years, you would clean it, re-stain and seal it, depending on the color, depending on which exposure it has to the sun and all that. So it's not necessarily, there is a lower maintenance option available in a natural product, which is kind of where we like to go anyway.
Well, there's a lot of studies about, there's a lot of studies out about it that a well-maintained wooden structure, fence or deck, always adds more value to a home than a similar composite or vinyl. Now there's this key word of well-maintained.
Yes,
and that's important. I do need to go back and take some corrective measure here. My wife sent me a text message and said, "You make me sound like a terrible wife." I would never have said that she blacked my eye.
Oh, I didn't take it that way.
I said someone else. So I just want to put my wife on notice that the whole internet here, we all know that comment is about a guy I know. It's a friend of mine. I was talking about a friend.
Sure.
Can't see my makeup, can you?
Well, I was gonna say now, Caleb, I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks, but I haven't seen you recently with a black eye. So
us men have to stick together,
No, but yeah. So I think you're right. I think talking about well-maintained fence. So our service business, we're doing a video ad on our local television station to see if we can't drum up some more interest. And they needed a video of a fence, right? Of me talking to a customer in front of a fence. And rather than go through media releases and all that, we try to reach out to we needed it pretty quickly. And so we're to find a customer, get them to sign a media release, go out there and figure out where to do it. I said, you know what? I've got a fence at my place. It's cedar materials, steel post, pre-stained mahogany. I said, it is beautiful. Let's go there, and we can just film there. Now, I installed this fence 5 years ago. It was pre-stained mahogany then. A year and a half ago, we went through and restained it. We just re-upped the stain on the fence. Looked great. We installed the fence 5 years ago, and it looks like a brand new fence. Now, I asked him, I was like, let's not show like right around our feet because I'm not the most careful individual with a weed eater. So you could tell that it's been weed eated for 5 or 6 years. But it looked great. So we could use a fence that was 5, 6 years old. But in the video, it looks like a brand new fence that we had just installed because it's been maintained and kept nice.
Joe, I've got to ask you a question.
Yeah.
And I think the whole internet wants to know this right now. Everybody's on the edge of their seat.
Okay.
Did you just say you weed eat and mow your own grass?
I have in the past. I will be honest. I will be honest.
A man of your stature, I would be really surprised if you mow your own grass. I didn't think that you were like the rest of us.
Well,
I knew there were some differences,
No, gosh. No, all right.
Sharpen my lawnmower blades later.
Well, here's the thing: is I know there's going to be some fact checkers out there that are diving into my yard care right now.
Oh, what? Demoed a weed eater for a YouTube video, right?
Now, there's a great individual named Rex. He takes great care of our lawn so that I can do other things that aren't mowing and maintaining my lawn.
That makes okay.
Yeah. So because here's the thing, it's awful nice to come home on a Wednesday. So Wednesday's our mow day. Come home Wednesday after a long day of work and come home to like a freshly mowed lawn. It looks
Man,
nice.
I would have that guy put in a whole row of bushes that turn orange about November.
Oh, Caleb, there's a funny story here.
Oh, I know.
Well,
We've all heard the story. Yeah.
okay. So, but we do have some really nice. They're called Green Giants, I think, or
Yep, those are nice. And
there we've got them on the back line because there's 2-story fences behind us, and our the city we live in says 6-foot fence is the maximum fence you could possibly build. So I was like, well, I'm going to put in a tree that grows 20 or 30 feet tall and gets really bushy, and I won't have to see my backyard neighbors, and my backyard neighbors don't have to see me. So anyway, yeah.
My wife, God love her, she's sending me text messages.
Oh, what did we do?
Oh, I've got a joke that I will. It's actually a very clean joke, but I'm not going to say it on your radio show. I'll tell you afterwards. And
okay, that's
it's a great lawn mowing joke that you can use. And, anybody who wants to get one of the greatest of all time, you can reach out to me personally.
Reach out to Caleb directly for the joke. So Caleb, Alan's got a great question. Anything new with the stain machine?
Well, new. We have a new manufacturer for the brush. We were getting Chinese brushes originally. We didn't manufacture them. We didn't source them, but the manufacturer of the machine sourced a Chinese brush. We now have an Italian brush, which is really nice. It costs just a touch more. The price to the consumer didn't change, but our raw price for us changed a little bit. But it's a full bristle brush, meaning it's a full natural bristle brush. It's not synthetic, which is really good, meant for oil-based stains, works great. You can use them to stain decks with because they do have the handle, you can screw a handle into them. But the brush is really, really nice. We made a few upgrades to the machine, and the manufacturer, again, is in Italy. It's a big, big outfit that makes these for us. And we're moving from the old to the new. And so some of our runs are new machines. Some of our runs are still on the old tooling, which the main difference for that is just the drain hole. Some of them have just a hole, and some of them have the like the shower head holes in them.
Yeah.
Both machines work. They do a good job. We're moving a lot of stain machines. I mean, it really, really surprised me how many people actually want to buy a staining machine and are buying a staining machine. It's opening a lot of doors for people that you'd be surprised how many calls that we get where guys are like, I've got 20,000 2x6s to stain by hand. It's going to take me 6 weeks to do it. Your machine, we did it in a week.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a big deal.
And they might not have a shop to do it in.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's a lot of the guys at State University that we were talking to about the machine. That was a pretty consistent narrative of, I would love to offer pre-stain, probably because their customers are a lot like ours, where they're asking for a lower maintenance wood product. Okay, well, let's talk about a pre-stain lumber option, but I don't have a shop where I can put a dip tank in. I don't have I can dry the boards, that sort of thing. Well, the pre-stain machine you can stain a board on site as you're building the fence.
Yep.
So
that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. But I think there's a lot of opportunity with that machine. I mean, if I go back and I think, could you start a whole business based around a little staining machine? And I'm thinking, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely could. You would have to have some sales and people skills.
Yeah.
Not because it's something that is a hard sell. It's actually a super easy sell, but you've got to be willing to go out there and build it, because it's not like you just Google someone to stain my raw lumber in a warehouse. It's not a common thing, but it's an underdeveloped and really an undeveloped market. And so I think in 10 years from now, you're going to see a big, big, big shift into the way people think about buying wood as a whole. And I don't think it's just going to be because of us. I think it's going to be an industry-wide thing. Once the big manufacturers figure out if they can find out how to make that extra margin from color being added to the wood, they're going to do it, and Sherwin-Williams, look out, right? So that's what's going to happen. So, somebody like Yellow Wood will team up with somebody like, Sherwin-Williams, and it'll be a whole new thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and for a fencing contractor, it's an incredibly easy upsell, right? It is. All right, so we're building. You'd like us to build a fence with cedar materials? Great. I love working with cedar. French bully. I see your question, and it's going to come up here in a second. But you're building it with cedar materials. I love working with cedar. What do you say? Would it make sense? These word tracks are going to sound familiar to both of us because of groups we were in the past. Would it make sense if we talked about what it would look like to upgrade that to a pre-stain product? That way, we're not worried about overspray. We're not worried about trying to figure out how to coat each and every square inch. We can coat the whole thing, even where the boards overlap your rails. Would it make sense for me just to give you a number on that, and then we talk about the benefits? Well, the answer is going to be yes.
And if you're not the greatest salesman, show them a picture. It's like, you remember the commercial of the mouse that was wearing like the outfit, and he was like, you can get with this or you can get with that, right? If you show them 2 pictures, that a lot of times pictures worth 1,000 words. And mama wants the brown fence, she don't want the yellow fence, right? So so I think it's something to look at. And
and carry a sample with you.
Yep.
I was talking to Tony Thornton about this the other day, about how as an industry, we've gotten away from carrying hand samples with us.
100%.
And maybe because of the pandemic, because in-person proposals weren't really a thing for a while, and we got away from that. But hand samples are to your point, are a great way of handing the customer something and letting them say, oh, it is, this is important. Oh, this is what it looks like. Yeah, I want this. I don't want this. I want to upgrade to this.
100%. I used to sell aluminum fence and then steel fence, Ameristar. And a lot of times if you'd get to a client who is in an affluent area and you're bidding against 3 or 10 other fence companies, and I would have hand samples of the same size panel of aluminum and steel, and they would, and I knew that if I had some kind of an edge, everybody else is quoting on price because it's 700 foot of 6 foot aluminum with 4 arched gates. And I was like, you know what? We're going to quote you in steel also, because obviously these people, they want security, they want status, they want these things. And so I'd say, well, I'm going to give you a price for aluminum here. Hold this panel. And they go, oh yeah. And they're like, it's so lightweight. That's nice. And is it pretty strong? And I go, yeah. And then I'm going to give you a price. This one's going to cost a little more, but this one is really the one. This is what I have at my house. And then I'd hand them the steel, and then it's heavy, it weighs 40 pounds. And they go, oh, that's the one I want. That's the one, because if your lawnmower, you forget to set the brake on your lawnmower, it's going to run through the aluminum and take it out. If a dump truck goes through the steel fence, it'll still take it down, but your lawnmower won't. Right. So hand samples are killer. It's a great way to set yourself apart.
Well, and I've seen your samples of the pre-stain of the stain samples, where you'll dip it, you'll let it coat, you'll cut that thing, you'll cut it in half so you can show a cross section of it, and to say, Mr. Customer, this is what we mean when we say it's a penetrating oil stain. You see how much it penetrates this lumber. It's a full and complete penetration. It'll protect it from the inside out, that sort of thing. So they can look at it and go, oh. And then maybe you have another sample that's not a penetrating. Maybe it's a water-based film forming or something like that. And say, Mr. Customer, of these 2, which do you think would last longer? And let them come to their own conclusions, right? Which do you think would protect better? Well, it's probably this one that's all the way through, right? Certainly is. Would it make sense if I gave you a number on upgrading your regular cedar fence to a pre-stain using this penetrating oil sealant? Of course, because then part of this, and this is the art of sales, part of this is building it up. And they're like, gosh, this number is going to be incredible. I've got all these benefits. This number is going to be high. It's going to be expensive. And then it comes back that it's not actually that big of an upgrade. As compared to the cost of the fence, it's not that big of an upgrade. And then it almost becomes a default, like, oh, well, yes, I do want that. Please do that for me. Hand samples can absolutely be huge.
You remember the little sleeping bags from Sears? The miniature ones? When I was a little kid, my granddad somehow he got one of those miniature sleeping bag samples.
Really?
My sleeping bag is a little baby. It was pretty cool.
Samples are huge. They really are. So easy upsell for fencing contractors. hand them a sample. This is what you're getting. This is what I'd like to bid you. Would that make sense? Absolutely. Listen, guys, most of the time when you ask someone if it makes sense, it's not a big ask. The answer is always yes. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you another bid. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you an upgraded cost, because they hear that as this is a sales tactic, right? Oh, he's just wanting to charge me more. But then if it's just a simple question, hey, would it make sense if I just gave you another option and we could talk about it for a few minutes so we can go from there?
I don't even ask permission to give other options.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
I like to do it up. You don't know. A lot of time, many people don't know what they want because they don't know what they can get. You know, how many times you've been to the car dealer and they said, did you know this also comes in purple? Obviously purple's not for everybody, but
sure,
many times we just don't know. If you could see all the colors, you might pick a different color. Sure. So I think that's definitely our responsibility and duty as service providers, as professional salespeople, is to broaden the horizons to people and say, this is an option, and this will. And we don't need to spend too much time on the features. We need to spend the most of the time on the benefits, because the features won't do anything for you, but the benefits will do something for you. So most people want to know what's in it for them. And so if you can say, hey, this is going to look beautiful longer, it's less likely to warp, crack, or twist. It's not going to turn gray like your neighbor's fence did. And it's actually going to cost about 75% less than staining it in the field. And it will reduce any risk. We don't have to worry about staining the top of your gutter or something on accident.
Yeah.
How does that sound? And if you're just going to do it anyways, if you're going to you're going to stain this fence, right, Mr. Customer? Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to take my fence. Well, if you're just going to do it anyways, just go ahead and do it right now. It's cheaper, right? Yeah. And I think that's a great way to sell that service.
Well, and especially talking about pre-stain, it's also, and you'd like to keep the mess out of your yard, right? You don't want to worry about spraying over onto your neighbor's house, or if it's my luck, your neighbor will have a buddy over with a brand new Porsche, and it might get on that, and you would rather not do that, right? Well, I'd love to talk to you about pre-stain lumber. I can actually do that at my shop. I keep all the mess at my place. When I bring it out to you, it's stained and ready to go.
I even would go so far as to say, what if you only offered pre-stained lumber? Yeah. You cannot buy a Kia at the Porsche dealer.
Yeah.
Yeah. No matter how hard you try. And so anyways, that's a thought, maybe the most successful fence companies I have seen and found in my life, and this doesn't, obviously there's results may vary. Mm-hmm. But some of the most successful ones I have seen and been to, they usually do one or two SKUs. Like we're building wood fence, and it's this style only. Our friends out in California, they built one fence. This is the style, and they build a lot of it. Yep. And I think there's something to be said for that, because we can go into the benefits of that on the operational side all day long. But
well, I mean, think about and I think there's something there. Right. So I think we'll go to Eat at Cheesecake Factory. Mm-hmm. The menu at Cheesecake Factory is 327 pages, roughly. Right. You're flipping through this thing. You're like, and for me, I know the one thing I like getting there, chicken carbonara, I'll hand this right back to you. It's going to be chicken carbonara. I don't want to deal with all these choices. There's probably some other great stuff in there. I just don't want to have to go through each one of all of these. But sometimes we'll go to a plated dinner, like a fundraiser or whatever, and you get a one page, and you get, would you like the chicken or would you like the vegetarian? For the appetizer, would you like a soup or a salad? That makes it way easier.
Yeah. It's the Chick-fil-A model. They have 6 or 7 menu options, maybe 5 menu options.
Well, or like we were talking before, Raising Cane's. I was listening to a podcast. Like I said, I've never eaten there, but I listened to a podcast. The guy that founded it, or that continues to own it, and they have have you been to Raising Cane's? I'm going to get this wrong. They've got 2 sides, or maybe they have one side. Would you like fries or fries? Or no, they have slaw. Fries or slaw. Period.
Yeah.
Would you like chicken or chicken?
St. Elmo's. Would you like an appetizer? It's shrimp cocktail. Would you like?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's something to that. So to bring that back around, maybe it is. Would you like, if you're getting cedar, it will be a pre-stained cedar. Would you like pre-stained cedar or a treated pine? So in our market, we still offer treated pine. Now, we have run trials before where we only do cedar. There was a solid 2 years where we only did cedar on steel post.
Mm-hmm.
Period. If you wanted that, we'd love to build it for you. If you want something else, there's a lot of guys in town that build fence. I'm sure one of them would love to do it for you. Our profit and loss and balance sheet reflected that, right? The fact that we offered one thing. So light choices maybe.
Right. There's things you have to do marketing wise, salespeople wise. It's a different tactic. And then I guess you have to be in a market. If you got 400 people in your town, that's tough. If you got 8 million people in your town or 20 million people, you can carve out that niche better. So you gotta,
Well, and if we weren't wanting to grow, if we were just wanting to stay the size we were, we might have been able to make that work too, right? But as we add on more crews and as we scale ourselves, it's like, well, we're going to need to offer some sort of options. So let's segue into this question because it's in the ballpark of what we're talking about. What are your thoughts on Douglas fir fence pickets? Now, I do not personally have experience with Douglas fir specifically. So we would deal with like a southern yellow pine. Douglas fir, and Caleb, you've got more experience with just lumber in general. Is that a northeastern thing? It seems to me like Douglas fir might be a northeast thing.
Yeah, I mean, Douglas fir is used a lot in building construction everywhere for interior use, and I can't remember what it is. It's pine on the bottom and fir in the top, or something like that, or one of the others that the old timers used to say. Somebody, if you know that saying, please put it in there.
Yeah,
that would probably be a framer would know that. But Douglas fir, I don't know a whole lot about it. I will out on that one, but I do know that we see Douglas fir being used for pergola kits, and it looks a lot like cedar. It looks just like cedar, and I think Douglas fir is obviously it's very stable lumber. It has to be a strong lumber because it's used for load bearing in homes. And so I would think, and if you look at a Douglas fir tree, it looks a lot like a cedar tree. So I would assume that it probably has some of the same characteristics of cedar as far as, insect infestation, things like that. So as far as fence pickets, I'm not sure. But cedar fence pickets will rot if they touch the ground in time. Pine fence pickets that aren't treated, and even the ones that are treated, will rot in time. So I think if you do Douglas fir, you'll probably be fine, especially for pickets. Just stain them. Use a good oil-based stain that'll wick up from the bottom and make it to where you don't have to worry about the rotting and the bugs, and you should be in good shape.
Absolutely. I'm doing just some quick research here. So it is a pressure treated. Well, some of them aren't pressure. So the one I see both pressure treated, but also I see one that's wax in sealed and then treated with a clear sealer. So I almost wonder if it's just if they still pressure treat it.
So I'm seeing the next comments. If you don't, and I'll throw them up there.
Yeah, there you go.
So this guy's using it for his rails. Alan is using it for his rails and his cap on his fences. But French Bully says, I saw a 3/4 inch treated Douglas fir fence picket for the same cost as a 5/8 cedar fence pickets. I would ask myself the question, first off, I would say, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Because it could be of an inferior quality. But at the same time, it could be that, I'll give you a great story. Alaskan yellow cedar.
Okay.
The high altitude, very dense, very slow growing cedar, primarily used for Japanese market, ships out of Alaska. In my opinion, it's a fantastic, superior lumber, but it's yellow. And so everybody wants red cedar. Well, this cedar's kind of yellow. Like it's kind of a mix between pine and cedar. It looks like cypress. And it's gorgeous. It's super dense. It's old growth. It's original growth. It's hard to find, but it's not very popular. It's cheaper than a lot of faster growth, second cut Western red cedar. And in my opinion, it's not nearly as good. So we could be in a situation where this Douglas fir is maybe better than the cedar, and
Yes.
it's not as popular. But I kind of doubt that because this has
Yeah.
been value added. It's been treated. It's 3/4 inches thick, and it's the same cost as a 5/8 untreated cedar fence picket. And the cedar market, I don't know, French Bully, if you tell us what what region or what city you're in, that would help us understand the market a little better. But just there's always outliers, but I would say that the quality is, if it's the same as cedar, I would probably lean towards the cedar because there's a lot of value added on that Douglas fir for it to be at the same price.
Absolutely. And this is coming. So I found from Duffield Timber. So basically it says, is Douglas fir better than cedar for a fence? The short answer, both are naturally durable and perform equally well for exterior projects. Your choice will come down to which you prefer the look of and whether you're running on a budget. Douglas fir typically comes in at a slightly cheaper price point than Western red cedar. So, I mean, I would default to cedar, one, because it's a known quantity, right, or a known quality.
Yeah. You never see treated cedar. I mean, I'm sure it's out there, but you just don't see it. And you're seeing treated Douglas fir.
Yeah,
I know in California, I'll put it like this. I know in California, there's what's it called? You see Doug fir for posts, treated Doug fir for posts, and which makes sense. It's ground contact. And then there's a hybrid. It's a something fir spruce or something like that. And if you're in California, let us know. That'd be something to look at. But French Bully's in the Pacific Northwest part.
I just saw that.
And if you're in the Pacific Northwest, you can buy Western red cedar cheaper than anybody else. I would probably opt for the Western red cedar, and that could be part of the reason that it's cheaper is because there's just an abundance of it up there,
and it's closer to you. Yeah.
So we have to pay for train cars in Tennessee to get cedar. So if you pay $1 for it, I'm paying $1.25 for it, minimum, or $1.40 for it for the same board. So
yeah, and if you're Pacific Northwest, you might also have access to redwood, and that might be a third contender to throw in the mix if you've got redwood in your market, because like Caleb was talking about, a friend of ours in California, redwood is beautiful. It lasts a long time, and it would also be a high quality product.
Yeah, for sure. Whatever you put in the ground, do something. Post saber sleeve if it's a wood treated post, and or steel post.
Yeah, even if it is so some people in our market, a cedar post is roughly the same price as a steel post, so we don't see cedar post much. But even if it was a cedar post, you'd still want to protect it. It naturally is going to resist rotten insects, but you'd want to give it a little bit more protection, give it an extra barrier, make it last a little bit longer. Oh, okay. So redwood's available, but twice the cost of Douglas fir and cedar.
And again, I would say, I wonder why. Something to look at. A lot of times your redwood's going to be 8 inches wide too, so you might want to look at that. And for what it's worth.
If I tell you what, if we could bring redwood into our market, just somewhat in the ballpark, I would love to offer redwood so much. Too.
You and me both. Gopher Wood would be redwood if I could make it happen.
So let's talk about Gopher Wood real quick. So we talked about Gopher Wood about a month ago, just when we were announcing them as also a sponsor of the show. How's Gopher Wood going?
It's fantastic, man. It's going great. We got a lot of guys out installing it. We got some dealers picked up, and super excited for it. And honestly, the crazy part is we're only selling through dealers and distribution. And so the problem we're having right now is everybody's calling us wanting to buy. We want 2 bundles of this, we want 3 bundles of that, we want a half truck, we want 200 feet, and unfortunately, we're not selling it to them. Sure. Because we want to build the relationships with the dealers and distributors, because we're not a wholesaler, we're not a retailer, we're a manufacturer. So we're seeking partnerships right now for dealers and distributors. I mean, plain and simple. So if anybody's watching or knows of anybody that might be interested in that, fencing supply yard or lumber supply yard, something like that, we're doing it, and we need to get those partnerships sooner than later. And we're beating the ground, shaking the trees to find them and get them, and we can't get them fast enough. So any help we could get from the audience would be fantastic. But yeah, Gopher Wood's doing well. We got it's gorgeous. It's easy to spot, when you see it. So that's a cool thing. That's for those that don't know. It's just a pre-stained, kiln dried fencing it's an import cedar or a Western red cedar domestic. We got both, and it's a great product. It's really cool and a great way to build a fence that's already stained.
Yeah, so one, it's a cedar picket, regardless of which cedar it is, it's at the base level a cedar product that's pre-stained with a penetrating oil-based stain, and it looks incredible. So if you were at Fence Tech, you likely saw the display that was built. It was a great illustration of what this could look like as a section. You guys also had hand samples available to send home with folks. And then if you're attending university, you obviously saw it again. An incredibly good-looking product that in a lot of markets, there isn't a pre-stained cedar picket available for retail purchase.
Yeah, that's kind of the opportunity we saw and the niche we saw, and so working to fill it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so in our market, before we started pre-staining, Menards had like a pre-stained picket available for order, but incredibly expensive. And then, we never went down that road because who knows how long to order it. And then there's the question of quality that comes out of a big box store.
You never know. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys are in a market that doesn't, one, look around and see if someone's not offering it, that you could be that someone. And there is a good market for it, especially once there's going to be a little bit of education needed in the market on, one, it's available, two, here are the benefits, and three, this is why you should want it in your yard. It'll take a little bit of education, but once you're there, you could be the go-to source for pre-stained lumber.
Yeah, for sure. And basically the way the lumber world works, lumber manufacturers or lumber mills are going to sell through distribution outlets and then the really big fence companies that can buy full truckloads. Just the way it goes. And then if there's somebody if we have a dealer in Atlanta, Georgia, and a big contractor calls in Atlanta, we're always, obviously we want to send that through the dealer. But sometimes there's people that say, well, we would never buy from XYZ, and you just get that understanding and say, okay, well, we have a customer here, we have to take care of them. So if you've got the capacity to purchase full truckloads, we will work with you. But primarily, and we'll set you up as a dealer, honestly, because people want to do it. I hate to name all the cities right now that we really need dealers in, because it's been I guess, I don't know if it's thanks to the show or thanks to Fence Tech, but it's been an incredible response.
Well, it's a great looking product. Mm-hmm. That's the thing is I think once and this is getting back to hand samples and displays, once you get it in someone's hand, let them look at it, touch it, feel it, it instantaneously sinks in like this is the premium offering. Mm-hmm. Right. So, and regardless of the size of the market, there is a need and a want for premium options, right? So Springfield is a metro market of around 250,000 people. We're not, as compared with other places, we're not that big. But to your point earlier, we've got a Porsche dealership. So someone's buying these things, and we've got Cadillac, and we've got whatever else.
Somebody's driving a King Ranch in your town, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And these dealerships do not plop themselves down if they're not selling these things. Yeah. Right. And they certainly don't stay in business for very long. The Porsche dealership's been here for, I couldn't tell you how long. So
when do you get your Porsche?
Roughly sometime after retirement, maybe, if my investments pan out, if the market holds.
You get that 1997 Porsche.
Yeah, in 2060, whatever. No. So, but that's the thing. So markets do have buyers for premium products, is the message. And now, granted, bigger markets have a greater quantity, just as a percentage, right? So, if you're in a smaller market, it still makes sense to offer the premium listing or premium product, because people are still wanting to buy. There are people out there that want the premium widget, whatever it is.
I agree.
So check out Gopher Wood for that premium product. I saw that. When you saw this, did you immediately hear it in your head?
I heard it like 16 times.
The good old woo! No one can quite do it like Matt does it.
Yep. I talked to Matt this morning. Good morning, sir. Thank you for time on the phone today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Matt, you want to talk about a wealth of information and a deep pool of knowledge. He is that person. He Yeah, it's just this is going to turn into the Praise Matt show because I can't say enough good things about him. But
let's not get his ego too riled up.
I know,
I don't know if he can take it.
Won't fit through the door at the shop. That's a problem. That's a problem. Now, Matt, welcome. I appreciate you joining us. Matt's actually up in the Northeast for the AFA, the regional AFA show going on up there.
Cool.
So hope that is going well for you guys, Matt. So Matt actually gave a talk, and I wasn't there, but I have a feeling it involved people standing in a circle and Matt greeting each one of them and then talking, having a motivational speaking point while they're all standing in a circle, if I were to guess.
Yeah, yep.
Matt, you got to be careful, though, because so I sat in on Matt's talk at Fence Tech, and Matt was, going around the room, and I don't want to spoil it, but he was going around the room for a reason, and he was climbing over tables and chairs, which I've seen him climb over chairs, but he about had an incident with one of the tables. They were not as sturdy as they appeared. So, Matt, I'll say for everyone around you, please be careful when climbing over tables and chairs.
You gotta look out, but he's in great shape. So I know he's getting up early every day, going to the gym. He's deadlifting, doing power cleans and stuff. So he's the kind of guy that would do that. Isn't that right, Matt? Probably do that every day, I imagine.
Yeah, let us know.
Hold the line.
Matt, so glad you're here. So glad you're joining us, and thank you for being a friend. Absolutely. Caleb, I think we find ourselves nearing the end of the show. The runway's in sight. We might think about landing the plane.
I understand.
So, recap for us, Standing University. What were your top 3 takeaways from Standing University that you might think about applying to next year?
Well, I think the top takeaway was there's a lot of good people in the industry. There's a lot of good people wanting to get in the industry, and there's a lot of good people wanting to step across into adding a different thing into their business, particularly what we do is wood care, staining, and sealing fences and decks. Yeah. And so I think those people are there. There's a lot of good people, and I think most people, they just want to learn how to or find an opportunity so that they can take control of their situation. With some people it is we just want to take better care of our customers. With other people, it's very much I'm in a place in life and I feel like I can do more. I feel like I can give more to my family, and I want to change my family tree. And I think just seeing all those people there that are hungry and wanting to do that stuff just gives me so much hope and excitement. And we talked today about, some of the younger guys maybe have to open their ears a little bit and maybe set egos aside. And some of the older guys have to do the same thing to start coaching up some of the younger people. But there's a ton of people there that are young, old, all ages that are doing exactly that. And I'm just excited to be a part of that industry. And I think it's a really cool thing. And everyone is open. Come on in. The water's fine, So yeah. I think Standing University went off great. Couldn't be more fired up or excited for 2024.
I agree. The one thing I love about the event is in that room, you had someone that was thinking about getting into it. So no experience at all, just there to learn and to pick up tips and tricks. And then you had guys in the room that had been doing it for a ton of years. You had a mixture of everything in between.
Yeah. 1 million years of experience in the room, right?
Probably, if you added it up. Great speakers. Not tooting my own horn, but there's other great guys there.
Yeah, Wayne Bell did great. Yeah,
that's who I'm thinking about. Is Wayne took the stage twice. Great speaker, got a lot of information from those. He's someone that in the industry that obviously is doing massive things, but took the time to come and say, "Hey guys, this is how you do it. This is what you do. This is why you should be doing it this way." And really being just an open book. To your point, one of now I think he's probably in between the former generation and our generation. He's somewhere in the middle, but he really has what felt like that teacher's heart of here's how you do it, and here's why you're doing it that way, and here just really giving all of his experience for an event that there was no cost to get in. Obviously, we're not paid to present, so for nothing, he was giving out all of this information.
That's it. That's what it's all about, man. That's, we come into this world with nothing and we leave with nothing. Everything we leave behind. So we might as well leave behind something good, I think.
Absolutely. Well, then it comes down to legacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want your legacy to be? This guy's familiar. Kenny Dugan, what's up, Stain Man?
Morning, sir.
Morning, guys. Late to join. That's okay. In the wood shop making wedding gifts this morning. Very good. I'll have to hit rewind on this show. Absolutely. You can hit rewind here on YouTube in just a few minutes, or you can wait for the podcast to upload next week. Either way.
Cool.
Caleb, what's that?
Thank you for having me, man.
I was getting ready to say thank you so much for being so willing to give your time and to come on and talk about all things staining and sealing related and fencing related.
Well, I went on a couple rants, so maybe
they were good.
Maybe you got some short videos you can put out of me ranting on the internet. That'll be all right.
I think if you watch it in the next little bit, you might see a few of them. I have a feeling.
It's all with good. It's all with a bright future in mind, and so hopefully everybody that watches the show understands that it's not, building a fence is great, the tools are great, the materials are great, but really what makes a great fence company or deck company or even if you're just thinking about building your own fence at home, what makes the life great is building up and being a part of a great team of people around you.
Yeah.
And I think as leaders, a lot of the guys that are watching this are leaders, and man, we have such a responsibility. Every time I get a team member or a guy in my company that we've got to let them go, I look at it as I'm ashamed of myself because I have not developed into a good enough leader to help this guy fix himself or fix the situation or fix this problem, whether it's a super bad attitude or whatever it is. And I take that personal. And so my personal thing is I have to get better. I have to get better. And I think everybody that's watching this, that's in the driver's seat of these companies feels the same way. We feel that responsibility and duty. And a lot of us didn't have somebody to teach us that, maybe somebody taught us how to use the hammer, the Bobcat really, really, really good, but they didn't have the opportunity to teach us how to coach people up, how to work with people that are troubled, and how to change people's lives in a different way. And so I think we've all got to work on that. And it's a different kind of people now. People are different than they were 30 years ago, and they're different 30 years ago than they were 100 years ago. So we got a lot of work to do, and we got to talk about it because we don't talk about it.
Sure.
If I can learn something from you, and you can learn something from Matt, and Matt can teach something to me, and then everybody listening throws into that conversation, we can change our little part of the world. And
absolutely,
you never know, like those ripples go a long way.
Well, and I'll say this: I like the direction our industry's heading. Like I don't want this to be heard as just a negative thing about our industry or just a negative conversation about what we need to be doing. I think we need to also say it's headed in a great direction, right? There's always room for improvement, but I think the fence industry today, as opposed to where it was 10, 15 years ago, I think we're headed in a great direction because we're having conversations like this. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this before about, in our Father's Days there was this whole thought about my ideas, and I'm not going to share them with you because then you might outcompete me or whatever it is. I think we're seeing the industry go back towards our grandfather's days where it was like, let's work together and figure it out. And hey, if you outcompete me, that's my fault for not hustling. I don't want to win just because I hoarded everything to myself. I want to win because I put forth effort and I won through just sheer will.
Well, and I think maybe that's not exactly on the topic of what you're saying, but a lot of guys remember the John Wayne movie where he had the dog. He had the border collie that would bite you, and he met the little boy, and the little boy kept trying to pet his dog, and he said, "Don't pet the dog, he'll bite you, son." And 3 or 4 or 5 different times he told him not to pet the dog, and finally he says, "I've told you not to pet him," but he says, "You just go on and do whatever it is you're going to do." And he reached up and petted the dog, and that dog laid into him and bit him on the hand, and the boy learned a lesson. And so sometimes we have to let our team members learn stuff and fail. And part of becoming a better leader, I think, is to start to see those things before they happen, and maybe not soft land it for them, but make it to where, if we're flying an airplane, we can crash into the side of to the side of a mountain, or we can kind of crash into a nice cornfield. Let's help our team crash it into a cornfield where we can build it back and put it together and turn it into a lesson. and let's pay attention. Matt told me on the phone this morning, leaders can't get caught with their heads down too much. You got to keep your head up. I think a good leader, some leaders need to lead say you should lead from the front, and some people say leaders lead from the back. I really think a leader needs to kind of lead from the middle a little bit. If you're at the tip of the spear where all the shooting's going on and all the fighting's going on, you're caught up in the fight. And if you're all the way in the rear leading, well, you're all the way in the rear. You can't see anything that's going on. But if you plant yourself in the middle, man, you can see right there. You're right on the edge of the fight. You're right in the back, and you understand the logistics that are going on to make things happen. And from the middle is a really good spot to be. You can really have a good perspective there and make good educated calls with a good perspective. So anyways,
I like it.
Call me and we'll talk about business. It's fun.
I love it. I love it so much. Caleb, once again, thank you so much. These are always so good. I look forward to our conversations because I know we're going to get into subjects like this that no one plans for, but at the end of the show, you're grateful that you went there.
We have got to start the show where we're sitting around a fire at night and just chat, talking shop, right?
Don't threaten me with a good time, Caleb. I mean, or the conversations like, so after Standing University, we're all sitting around a table at an Airbnb. Like those conversations are good. Those are fun.
I can see it now. Joe's wife walks onto his back porch. He's smoking a cigar with a virtual reality headset on, talking to me.
It was some of those Vision Pros. Hey, listen, that's coming.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you for having me. Thanks to all the guests for listening and putting up with me. If anybody wants to reach out to me and talk about staining or business, we're sort of famous for being the most helpful wood care company out there. Our goal is to help you kind of get some control of your situation, no matter what it is. So Expert Wood Care, talk to us anytime. We're here to help.
So how does someone get a hold of you, Caleb, or get a hold of the team?
Sure. So there's 1,000 ways. Probably the best way is to go to expertwoodcare.com. You can find our email. You can find our phone number. You can find everything you need to know about us.
Perfect.
We're always available.
Very good. Caleb, thank you again. As you said, everyone watching at home or watching from wherever you are, thank you so much for tuning into this live show. If you made it all the way to the end of the podcast, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. The team says I'm supposed to ask you for a review, an honest review. Just tell us what we're doing right, and we'd love to hear it.
And statistics show that most of you watching are not subscribers. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the family.
We'd love for you to be part of the Fence fam. That's absolutely right. Caleb, I tell you what, we should just tag team this thing more often. We're good for the show for sure. But all right, very good. Caleb, thank you. Everyone at home, thank you. For now, Caleb and I are reminding you that good fences
and they make good neighbors, and a fence is not done until it's finished, guys. So just remember that.
I love it. I love it so much. Everybody, we will see you next week.
See ya.